Hello and welcome. We will get started in just a minute. We are thrilled you are here today with IntelliBoard for Future Focus, empowering data access, mastering org roles, and IntelliBoard users. We'll get started soon, but in the meantime, feel free to say hello in the chat or drop any questions you may have. There are lots of familiar faces today and names. Thank you for being with us. We also have some new names that I'm seeing, so a big welcome to you. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, friends from Truro. All right, well, we will get started. Again, welcome. I'm Amy Price. I come to you from the product side of IntelliBoard. I've been here for several years, but before that, I was an educator, still an educator at heart, and thrilled to share with you today about org roles and IntelliBoard users and how we make the most of them here at IntelliBoard. And honestly, it's one of my favorite features. So we will go ahead and get started. At the end of today's sessions, like good learning outcomes and educators that we are, will understand the relationship between org roles and users. We will understand the impact of the data filters and what that means. And we'll also talk through options of how to best automate these things. And again, please drop your questions into the chat and we will do our best to answer those on today's call, or we will certainly follow up with you. Next slide. So for my friends who are new to us today, what is IntelliBoard? Really briefly, we are learning analytics for your LMS. We look to make sure that that data is understandable, actionable, and in term, so you can really drive action from your data to make a real impact and improve those learning outcomes. Today, we are primarily focusing on that first bullet point, which is the permissions inside and outside of your LMS and how we get the right data into the right hands of people. And we're going to go to our next slide because with IntelliBoard, we work with a lot of different personas. We recognize that your institution or your organization is living and breathing different roles, right? All those roles need different data, and they all need data just to their specific role. We cannot give all the people all the reports and all of the data because that would be problematic for GDPR and FERPA, but also it would be a lot of noise for them to sort through. So today we are going to focus on one, the academic advisor. This is Annie, and she is going to be our pal today. And we're going to go through org roles and IB users specifically with an academic advisor role in mind. But I want us to also remember that the logic that we're going to apply to the academic advisors is the same logic we can apply to these other organizations. And just a reminder that we do have pre-selected reports, dashboards for each of these roles of the most critical data that they need. Because again, the idea is that we are finding the most critical data, we're getting it into the hands of the right person to take action on it. Next slide, please. So how do we make this happen? This to me is one of the greatest value adds of our platform. It's different than the LMS native reports, right, that are only going primarily to LMS admins or instructors or maybe even learners. This is different than a Tableau where you have to put the permissions, or an SQL report where you have to put the permissions in the report before you give it to each person, or even different than just individually sending those reports out to different entities on your campus. This is really role-based permissions in and outside of your LMS. So we start with an org role, we apply an IB user, and you'll find this inside your IntelliBoard account. If you go to the top right-hand corner, that avatar, manage IB users and manage org roles, I will say there's a caveat. These two permissions are given to people. So your primary account holder has them automatically, but if you're not seeing these in your account, I encourage you to connect with your primary account holder, because these are given out in the org role, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you don't see them, I just want you to know that you can you can get them, but also it's important to note that not everybody can create roles, edit roles, or create IB users or edit IB users. That can be a partitioned responsibility for your IntelliBoard creator or championship team. Next slide. So step one, you are inside IntelliBoard and you are going to create an organizational role. This is step one. This is a type of person. Think about it as similar to an LMS role, right? You have a system admin role, you have a teacher role, you have a learner role, right? These are our overarching personas. So when we go back and we talk about Annie, the academic advisors, the organizational role that we're talking about is academic advisors. It's a template for a group of people. This template, or the organizational role, determines the account permissions, what you're able to do, right? What you're able to see in your platform, and it grants dashboards and data sets. So for academic advisors, we want to focus on the first submission dashboard, and we want to focus on the learner success dashboard. We're not going to give that academic advisor the LMS usage dashboard because it doesn't make sense for the academic advisor. We're really going to narrow in the dashboards and the data sets that are most critical to that role. So again, organizational role, step one, this is a template. Y'all are being quiet in the chat, so if you have any questions, you throw them in there. Step two, we take that organizational role and we apply it to an individual user, right? So if we're sticking with academic advisors, you may have 5 academic advisors, you may have 20 academic advisors, you may have more, dependent on the size of your institution, right? So you have one organizational role for academic advisor. For IntelliBoard users, which are our step 2, this becomes the people, right? So this is a credentialed account. They must be given an organizational role. And these are the 5 advisors. And these are the 20 advisors. They all have their individual IntelliBoard user. The data filters are applied to individual users. Sharondelyn, that's a great question about the advisors, what they would have access to. One of my teammates is going to drop you the academic advisor getting started persona guide, which is in our knowledge bank. All of those personas have recommendations and you will be able to find them there. And we'll put that link in the chat for everybody, but we'll also follow up this spreadsheet with that as well. Thank you, team. So you've got your step 1, org role. Step 2 gets assigned to the IntelliBoard user, the IB user, which is the credentialed account. We're going to go on to the next slide. Now, data filters. This is where the magic happens, right? So the data filters are what we use to control what data the academic advisor sees. So you can see in our little screen, we're over here inside. We can see any academic advisor has been applied the organizational role of academic advisor. And now we just need Annie to see her advisees, right? Annie isn't responsible for all of the advisees or students at her campus. Thank goodness, she's already busy. She only has her advisees, and we use what we call data filters to do this. There are a lot of different ways we can manage data filters, and it really is based off of the user story. So again, we're just talking about Annie today, but there are other ways to do this, and we encourage you to reach out and let us know. It's a persona by persona basis. Also, the links that we're sharing in the chat will also help you with the data filter combinations. We're going to jump into those kind of big picture, and then we'll jump back into Annie's user story. Perfect. So when we talk about data filters, largely there's two types. And I like to think about these as users and groups of users, right, on one side, and courses and groups of courses on the other side. And again, I know that there's lots of people here from lots of different LMSs, so hang tight with me because every LMS is a little bit different. But users are going to be individual users, cohorts, custom user profile fields. Those are more Moodle, right? Groups of users. And then courses or groups of courses. And this can be courses, individual courses. This can be a category or a sub-account. This can be a term if you're using Canvas or Blackboard, but we're really big picture focusing on this person needs to see either users or courses. As an instructor, I need to see my courses and only my courses. And because I'm allowed to see my courses, I can see the students in my courses. As an advisor, I need to see a group of users. Then if I'm an academic advisor, or I'm sorry, a academic leadership, like a dean or a department chair, I need to see groups of courses, right, for the overarching awareness of what's happening in my program or department. There's a great question in the chat about, can the data used and validated and not be manipulated? Absolutely. So Gary, once you have your filters, Annie can't go in and change any of the data that is assigned to Annie, right? You can't go in and change your own org role or your own data filters for that permissioning. We also wouldn't give an academic advisor the ability to create other org roles or other IntelliBoard users. It's like a locked only view account. The other component is once you have your permissions, those permissions can be updated, and there's also ways to automate those permissions as well. The other really important thing that I think is just important across the board is IntelliBoard is a way to view your data. We like to make it more actionable. We like to highlight data. We like to add some color. We like to sort it. But there's nothing that anybody can do inside IntelliBoard that writes back to your LMS. So while we can see LMS data, we can't write back to LMS data. The other important thing that I think is really important is IntelliBoard, through organizational roles and IntelliBoard users, allows you to give people who ought not be in the LMS data, right? So I like to think about, folks who are managing grants. I like to think about our, the registrars not often inside the LMS, the financial aides often not inside the LMS, athletic advisors not in the LMS. We don't need people, right, having too much access to the LMS because that's living, breathing courses and living, breathing grade books, right? The people who are in charge of that should be controlled by your LMS and those priorities. But this is a way to give that in-term data access to individuals that you need not to have their fingers in the LMS. Awesome. Okay, so 2 types of data filters: users, groups of users, courses, groups of courses. And if we're looking at Annie, the academic advisor, right? Annie's one of those that typically shouldn't be inside the LMS, right? As an academic advisor, if you had to put an academic advisor in every single course to monitor every single student, that would be a challenge, right? And that's not how we want that to work. So the ability to narrow that data can be achieved in multiple ways. You can manually or bulk import the permissions. You can sync certain types of roles so that those LMS permissions follow, or you can automate with an LTI view inside your LMS. So let's talk about what each of these means. Manually or bulk importing. You can put anybody you want individually or as a bulk import into IntelliBoard and then apply their data filters. We can also help you out here with an SQL report to support that bulk import and make it a little automated. Again, each of these are going to have a little bit of a different nuance based off the persona and role. We also have the option to sync IntelliBoard users. These are typically instructors and course admins. So like an academic leadership could follow the permissions that they are able to see inside the LMS, and we can follow those roles. You also in the LMS can automate to an LTI for your instructors and your students. And that would be like your instructors would only see their active courses where they have the instructor role. Your students would only see their courses where they have their student role. So the automated LTI and the sync is a really nice way to follow the permissions and let your LMS do the work for you, right? The manual and bulk imports are more for the people who don't necessarily live in the LMS already, and we still need to give them that LMS data, like our academic advisors. Gary, you have another great question about importing data from high school grad into a university, and I'm going to talk about that on a different slide, and we're going to come back to you for that one. But the answer is yes, there's opportunities to do that. We're going to go on to the next slide. So how do we do it for Annie and academic advisees? So we start with Annie. She's a delight. She's busy. She loves her students and she's passionate about her students. And she is working with 2 reports, right? So mainly her favorite is learner success dashboard. And all of this is in the persona guide on the knowledge base, if to go back to it. But the learner success report is her favorite. First submission report is her second favorite because it helps her with census data and answering questions that her leadership team needs for, validating enrollment revenue streams. It's not her favorite part, but she knows it's important. She is assigned the org role of academic advisor. Her IB user is her email, right, at her institution. And then we apply data filters to Annie's advisees. We're going to go on to the next slide and talk about it a little more in detail. Again, this is how the logic works across all of the persona deployments. So it is Annie in this scenario, but again, think an organizational role of athletic academic advisor, think veteran academic advisor, think trio program, think Black male mentoring program, think all sorts of different special populations on your campus can be advisors, right? They can use that academic advisor role. The other roles that you have, the templates of reports and permissions are your registrar, financial aid, dean, manager, right? All of those can be organizational roles, and it's a template. Second step, an organizational role is given to that IntelliBoard user. So those individual humans, right? The academic advisor team of 5, each all have their 5 individual accounts. And then data filters are applied to that individual user. So Annie only sees her academic advisees. And we'll go on to the next slide. So after Annie, this is learner success and progress. This is her favorite report. Annie only sees her advisees in this report. And if we'll click it one more time, we can also brainstorm the other folks that can come into, oh, apologies. Well, I'm not sure. There it is. The other type of advisors on your campus that can use this one organizational role and this one default. And again, this is where I just want to sit here for a moment and brainstorm what this looks like on our campus. Annie is an academic advisor. She may be in upper course management with juniors and seniors. But a first-year academic advisor could also have the same report, but only for her first-year students. An athletic advisor, a veterans advisor, a dual enrollment advisor, or a trio advisor, really anyone who is supporting students on campus can have the learner success dashboard. And what that ends up meaning is we're creating with one dashboard, right? With getting it into the hands of different people across campus, we're creating a culture of change and a culture of data awareness that lots of our different offices are working with the same exact thing with only their students, right? And then it saves you all time because it's one report that is serving multiple different offices, multiple different people, wraparound care for those retention efforts. Because we know that retention is everybody's job. And unless we give everybody the tool to do it, then it's not as powerful as it can be. So this is, Gary, back to your question about, can you import data from a high school into the platform? This is exactly what we do with dual enrollment. This is exactly what we do with athletics or a veteran status or a Pell eligible status through Inform. So if you imagine this dashboard, right, it can also bring in and identify that Amy Price, student Amy Price, is Pell eligible. She's a first generation college student. She's on the women's soccer team. The last one's not true. I would love to be on a women's soccer team, but I'm not. But the other ones, right? And then Amy can be supported by an athletic advisor, a first-year advisor, and maybe a trio advisor. All of those people have that same information on Amy because she belongs to each of them in their academic advisor pools, their groups of students. We'll go on to the next slide. So we're going to jump into the platform, but before we go, there's 2 QR codes that are available to you. You can pick those up. We'll also put those in the chat. But are there any other questions at this point before we jump into the platform and I show you a little bit about the editing? We're going to give folks just a second to grab those QR codes. I'm going to get my screen pulled up. I am sharing inside our demo account, and I've clicked in the top right-hand corner, and I've gone down to manage organizational roles. So I'm going to click into, again, each of these personas have a template that you can copy and clone and make your own. I'm going to click into this to edit. In this organizational role, you can rename it to whatever you would like. You're going to click your connection on, and the first box is going to be your account permissions. This is what your template is able to do inside IntelliBoard, right? And so for an academic advisors, we're only giving them notifications. You can see manage org roles and manage IB users over here as options. We're not going to give those to the IB users that are academic advisors. We only are going to give them notifications and perhaps in contact. We're going to come down here and we're going to see the reports that have been pre-selected, but you can click and unclick to assign these individual reports and dashboards and data sets. You can also go ahead and move them over to their first view, and you can set a home page. Again, utilizing this template of the data that you want to see for that academic advisor. I'm going to go back and I'm going to leave. I'm not going to make any edits today. Once I have my organizational roles, I'm going to go over to my IntelliBoard users, and I can see that we have a bunch of them here. And I'm going to find Annie, right? So Annie has an email. She has the organizational role of academic advisor. And then your data filters are here under actions. Again, we've imported Annie's academic advisors, and we've identified Annie's academic advisors as her through an SIS integration or through Inform. So we've bulk uploaded all of these different data filters to Annie. And again, there's ways to automate that through an SFTP. There's ways to automate that through imports. We are here for you to brainstorm the best way to import for your specific deployment. So reach out to your account manager, reach out to your solution consultant to identify the ways that would be best for your individual user story of how we can best automate this to your needs. I'm going to hang on tight for any last questions related to academic advisors, related to org roles and IB users today. Gary will follow up with you about benchmarking for student performance, because that is what we refer to as learner risk points. And that's a whole nother conversation and a whole nother amazing feature, but we will follow up with you via email. There also was an amazing learner risk point webinar. I believe it was last week, and it's on our YouTube, and we will follow up with that in the email for everyone, so you can see that as well. And then Gary will work with you on those questions too. Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate everyone's time today. We hope you walked away with understanding the relationship between org roles and IB users, how to apply those data filters, and some ideas for your next implementation. As always, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm Amy at IntelliBoard.net. And you can also reach out to us at helpdesk@IntelliBoard.net. And don't forget our knowledge base as well. We look forward to supporting you in persona-based deployments to, again, get that in-term data into the hands of the right people to make the biggest impact on the lives of the students that you're working with every day. So thank you. Have a restorative summer, and we'll talk to you all soon.